My brother has never been good to me. So when I was about to lend him $50,000 of my hard-earned money, I knew it was a mistake. I knew I probably wouldn't get it back, so I came up with a brilliant idea. Hey, I'll just make him sign a contract so he's legally abiding by it. Well, it turns out he's more brilliant than I could have ever expected.
Hey y'all, well, you can call me OP. I'm in my late 20s, and I've come here to ask for your advice or suggestions or anything that comes in handy for me to use in the situation I find myself in. My brother, Sean, and we could not be any more different as we grew up, especially when it came to finances and careers. I've always been someone with big dreams. My parents, they brought me up to know the value of money, and from a young age instilled an entrepreneurial spirit in me. This is not just in me, but also in my older brother, Sean, who apparently has not learned anything from all that he's been taught. See, I'm a fashion designer, and Sean is still trying to find a job and build up his career. He takes one job, then bounces to another, and like this, he changes many jobs in a single year. I've always appreciated things, always appreciated money. Its value, its opportunities, and from a young age I recognized and valued the savings of. Savings would keep a huge part of what I earn. I've always been an observant, prudent child growing up. Not like Sean, who did not hesitate to spend all of his money on whatever he needed. He had no thought for saving or thinking about the future. Come on. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against Sean. I've always loved him, and he's my big brother, and very often defended me in cases where I could not defend myself. While in school, he would ensure I was not bullied, and he looked out for his kid sister very much, so why am I writing this, you might ask? Well, Sean does something consistently that makes me so mad, and this is a habit of borrowing things from me and not returning them. You may wonder, what the big deal is about it since he's my brother. But I assure you, this is pretty much a big deal. Sean has a habit of getting things from me and promising to return them, but never actually doing so. Since we were kids, I've given him books, unisex bags, money, and other things, but I never got them back from him. All he would give me was an excuse. I would ask, and after a while, I would get tired and stop asking, and whatever it would just automatically belong to him. He never gave them back, and that became a recurrent cycle. And at some point, I got tired of him giving my things up, but he would come up with one story or the other, and yet again, I would give it to him. Now, I'm totally fed up with his attitude, but because we're family, there's really nothing that I can do. My parents, they travel often for business, and it would be Sean and me left with our grandparents, and if you're wondering, then yes, Sean and I still live with our parents. It's a big family that includes my grandparents as well, so I have a very good relationship with my grandpa. He's one of the reasons I'm educated on finances, and he's taught me a lot about money, investments, and opportunities, and he even taught me to make wise decisions when it comes to spending money and giving the same out. Now, this is my dilemma. 2 days ago, I was seated in the living room, eating some popcorn and watching my favorite show, when Sean rushed into the house and told me that he needed my help urgently. He looked rough, like someone had been running from another person or some sort of danger. He asked me to lend him some money, and guys, when I tell you money, I'm not talking a small amount of money. The man asked me for $50,000, and I could not have that. Well, I was shocked, and when he asked, I asked him what he wanted to use the money for. He said he was in some really big trouble and needed the money to sort out something urgent. Guys, I don't totally believe Sean, and I don't know what to do. This could be another one of his schemes to get me to give him money, which he would end up not returning. Or he might truly be genuine. I'm confused. I've been a victim of Sean's reckless spending and do not want to be a part of it. I have my own plans for my money, and I have things to do with them. What do you guys think that I should do? Should I go ahead and give him the money? I'm afraid that if I don't give it to him, I might be branded an evil person, and a sister who's not caring enough. Well, I saw him that day. And he looked pretty much in bad shape to me, but does this also mean that I might be risking losing the money to him if he doesn't pay me back and forgoing what I had planned to use the money for? The truth is, I have more than enough from my savings and multiple internships I was able to do from college days and now from my own business of fashion designing. So I could easily give Sean the money right now. The only thing I have in my heart is doubt about whether or not Sean would pay me back as he said he would. I mean, what do you guys think that I should do? Comment number 1. Ugh, you may give it to him if you have the means to make sure that he pays you back, but if you don't have a means for him to pay you back, then I advise you not to. Yeah, family's everything, but you must still realize that you have to be careful and make smart decisions. So, tread carefully, girl. Let us know how it goes. Comment number 2 says, all you guys are entitled. Ungrateful people, I'm so sure there must have been times when your brother helped you. How come you never complained until now? Family matters should not be brought to the open the way that you have done. Get a life. Update number 1. Hey guys, well, I'm back for an update, so I decided to take the counsel of one of you guys and give Sean the loan. That person spoke to my heart when they said that family's everything, and Sean could very well be in danger with me being the only one who could solve his problems. Contrary to some people's opinions, this is not easy for me to do. It has to be made clear that I worked for the money, and anybody who works hard for their money would know how important this is. I believe it's not nice for you to assume that I'm being selfish just because I express concerns over the fact that I thought I may never get my money back. I think this is a legitimate feeling for anyone to have. I mean, $50,000 is not a small amount of money, so please, try to understand me. I had the money saved up from the times that I worked after school, in high school, and well, that was a lot of times, allowing me to save more than enough. My parents were aware of my entrepreneurial spirit, and they didn't stop me. Well, my grandpa put in a word for me, and that's how I became the person I am today. I spent most of my free time working in stores, and quite frankly, I enjoyed selling to people and having conversations with clients and customers. I had all that money saved up because I wanted to ensure that I had a better footing in college despite what my parents and grandpa would give me. Like I said earlier, I'm a pretty independent person, and while I do appreciate the support of my parents and loved ones, I'm not one to totally depend on them for my future. Well guys, that's another reason I started working early and started to save up. I was thinking of starting a business of my own or simply starting something to get ahead, and that's how I've come so far today. But since Sean sounded desperate that day, I decided to give the money to him because, as I said, family's everything. And as unbelievable as it may sound, I do love my brother, and I would never want to see him in danger. I would never want anything bad to happen to Sean, despite our differences in the number of times that he's been in pain. A pain in my butt. So, because Sean sounded desperate that day, I decided to give the money to him. But before that, I went to his room to have a conversation with him about the money. I had an agreement drawn up before he arrived, and that agreement stated that I gave him the money only on one condition, that he pays everything back in full and on the due date. The wisdom to do this came after I discussed the situation with Sarah, my friend, and I did not know exactly what to do and how to handle it because of my past experiences. Sarah, who had an uncle who was a lawyer, told me that the best thing to do was put our little agreement into writing. If I simply told Sean to return the money with my words only, he could get away with not paying and I would have no evidence to show for it. So, drafting an official document and having him sign it would put me on the safe side. He was sitting on his study chair when I entered his room after knocking, and, "Well, I have the money and I'm willing to give it to you," I said. Sean jumped at me, beaming, as he held me in a hug and said, "Thank you, thank you." But, I continued, "You have to sign these papers before I proceed to send the money to you because I helped out the documents and pinned to him." I could not read his expression, but I was determined that if he refused to sign the document, I would not send the money to him. As though he could read my mind, he said nothing, quietly collected the pen and signed the paper where his name was on it, and I had signed my part of the documentation before bringing it to him. I brought out my phone and I made the transfer. $50,000 right to Sean's account. Sean confirmed that he got the money, and as I made to leave his room, I caught him smiling and felt uneasy about his smile. I entered again and asked him, "Are you sure you're going to pay me back, Sean?" He quirked his head and told me he would definitely pay me back. I left Sean's room with an easy feeling, and now I cannot help but wonder if the decision I made to give him the loan was the right one. My brother seemed like he had something up his sleeve with that smile. Even though I had the document, I could not help but wonder if I had done the right thing at all by trusting in giving him that loan. Update number 2. So guys, I'm here after such a long time, probably months. I told you how I had a funny feeling when I left Sean's room after I sent him the money, right? Well, the feeling persisted, and I could not get my mind out of the fact that he could be trying to play a fast one on me. You all would not believe how his basically turned out, because that feeling lingered, so I talked to Sean and asked him again when he would be paying. If he had the money earlier, he could pay before the agreement date, and that would settle everything. Guys, he literally looked at me and told me that I did not have to worry because he was going to ensure that he paid before the payment deadline. So, I decided to let him be and be understanding so that he could have the time to get the money, if he had not gotten it yet. Weeks passed, and the deadline for payment came. So, I asked Sean about the payment, and he kept giving me one excuse after the other. I let him be again, thinking that he probably still needed some time to raise the money. I tried to be understanding of a sister because it took me a really long time to save up that kind of money. I know, some people may blame me for giving Sean the money in the first place, but really, you can't blame me. That's what a sister should have done. Yeah, he disappointed me a lot of times when I gave him things, but I just felt that he would understand how much sacrifice I was making to give him that much money, and finally change his ways, but all this while he would simply dump one excuse or the other on me when I asked him about the money. I asked him again, and he gave me another response. Well, it was such an unreasonable answer. It was then that I threatened him. I told him that, using the signed document, I had the right to sue him. Well, Sean got really scared, held my hands and begged me to be patient. He promised to pay back the money, and told me even that he was sure Grandpa would leave him some money in his will, and he would be able to pay back the money. Well, yes, I knew that my grandpa had some wealth and resources to his name, and I told you guys that he was the one who taught me most of the things I know about finances and savings. He was getting older, and we knew that he would most likely prepare his will soon, and he would include all of us in his will, so Sean told me to give him more time so he could pay me back once he gets his own share of the will, and I told him I was willing to wait. And from then on, I hardly saw him. It was though he was avoiding me so that I would not have to ask him about the money. We haven't read Grandpa's will yet, but surely a reminder wasn't out of our place. Just to keep things in his mind, you know. He would come home a few days in the week, and the rest of the week he would be gone. Disappearing was his new style, and you would not believe how surprising it was for me. After the outing yesterday, I met Sean and his friends at our home, partying. Well, it was not a party per se, but they were about 8 of them eating and drinking and making loud noises. I was not so much as concerned that he had that many friends as I was about how much they must have spent ordering such plentiful food and several bottles of booze. I was surprised that Sean kept telling me he had no money, yet when I asked him for my money, well, he must have had enough to bring his friends over and spend lavishly on feeding them. I was well aware of the kind of guys Sean kept as his friends. They were broke people, broke boys, who enjoyed living off of him, so I was too sure he was the only one paying the bills. I said hi to them as I passed to go to my room, and, well, they went about nodding their greeting head, their mouths full of chicken. Some minutes later, I came out and told Sean I would like to see him for a minute. I pulled Sean away from the living room and towards the kitchen and asked him where he had gotten the money that he spent so lavishly on this little party. He looked at me and said, "You can't be serious." Well, I took a deep breath. You told me you had no money, so where did all this come from, buddy? I was getting upset because his expression, it just showed that he was not taking me serious. Sean did not answer my question. He simply ignored me, walked past me, and went back to meet his friend. So I stood there shocked, and I could not go there to meet him because I didn't want to cause a scene. Guys, as I currently write this, I clearly don't know what to do. From Sean's attitude, I can already tell that he would most likely not repay the loan. All I did was be a good sister and give my brother the benefit of the doubt. But I'm not sure that it's a good decision anymore. Will people mock and embarrass me if I truly take up the threat to sue him in court? I mean, guys, let me ask you this. What should I do? Update number 3. Hello guys, I'm here to give you another update on how things are going between my brother Sean and me. So Grandpa called everyone together to say that he had an announcement to make concerning his will. My parents were mostly out on a business trip, and I can confidently say that really, half the time of our lives we were raised by our grandpa since childhood. This time around, the announcement was to the grandchildren. Sean, our other cousin, and I sat in our houses and the will was read, and everybody heard the portion that has been given to them. You guys, Sean was beside himself with joy when his name was mentioned. He simply could not stop himself from jumping up and down and dancing around immediately after others left. He was over the moon because of the portion that he had gotten, and at the moment I started reminding him about the money he was to pay me. Do you know what happened, guys? Sean laughed at me. He scoffed and said, "Ugh, so you really believed I would pay you back?" I was truly shocked at his words, despite how much he begged me to give him the money and all the promises that he made to pay me back. I was very upset. I was literally shaking with anger because I could not believe that Sean would do something like this. Money that I worked hard for and saved up so I could use it for myself in the near future, and now Sean wants to simply take all of that and not pay back anything and decide to what? Bully me? Ugh. So guys, I threatened Sean that I would go to court, and guess what? Sean laughed at me hysterically and told me that he had already stolen the original document after we both signed it. And you know what? He replaced it with a phony. He told me to find the document where I kept it, and I would find out that it was not the original but a fake one that was there instead. Well, I did, as I was told, and I checked and brought out the document, but it had been, it has been replaced by a fake one. The document that Sean had went ahead to replace, it did not state that Sean was to repay the loan. It simply stated that I had freely given it to him and did not require it back. He was good with forging signatures, so he forged mine, and signed the portion where I was to sign and sign his own part too. Everything looked so neat. I held it in my hands as Sean kept laughing until he left the house, probably to celebrate his new inheritance from the will. Seriously, I cannot lie to you guys. I'm angry. I'm devastated that Sean would do such a thing to me. He left me there, and I watched as he left, but he definitely did not know what surprise would be waiting for him. No, I would not be taking things easy with him. Just wait for another update, you guys. Update 4. You guys would not believe the turn of events. I did say that Sean would see the surprise that was waiting for him, right? And I was absolutely correct. So do you guys remember the updates where I told you guys that I came home and saw Sean and his friends eating and drinking, and I confronted him? And that he ignored me and walked out on me? Well, good. This was the moment I started to realize that everything was not fine and I needed to act fast, or I would never be able to get my money back from Sean. Well, yeah. Just like the way it's been with the previous ones. After the scenario, I instinctively knew that Sean would play a fast one on me. So I decided to get into action before he and the opportunity had to do so. Something that Sean did not know was that I had actually set up the division of assets that Grandpa had reached out to us. I'd already found out that Sean had tampered with the document the same day, so I confronted him about the money that he had spent to feed his friends, and after he left me in anger, I checked the document where I had it kept as my mind was whirling around the thoughts of suing him. And that's when I looked closely at it and saw that it was a fake one, a phony. Of course, I knew that the original one, even though they were quite similar, I knew the words I typed, and I definitely knew that Sean had taken the original one and replaced it with a fake one so he could play a fast one on me. I decided not to say anything to him about the fake document even the subsequent times that I asked him about the payment of the money, and he ignored me. I just still wanted him to return the money without me attempting to do anything bad to him. So, I felt that if I spoke to him again calmly, he would see the reason and finally just return my money. Well, I spoke to him, and as usual, Sean just ignored me and walked away. It was at this point that I decided to take matters into my own hand and hatch a plan that he would not forget in a hurry. I'd already sensed that Sean would play me, because, I was aware that Grandpa was drafting his will, and I took the opportunity to tell him all that has been going on and how Sean refused to pay me, something he was fond of doing, and not only that, I had more information. I told Grandpa that Sean was very reckless, and that he deserved to be punished for all this. I told my Grandpa to help me catch Sean, to ensure that he would regret all the things that he's ever done to me and made me go through. All the while when I was simply being a good sister to him. So I asked Grandpa to help me teach him a lesson, and my Grandpa gave me a master plan, and I knew that Sean would be shocked to find out what it was. Final updates. Hey guys, so to continue the story of Sean and me, Sean laughed and scoffed at me at the things when I asked him for money. He didn't know what was really waiting for him and all the things that I've done to put these things into place. I called Sean to the living room and then said I wanted to talk to him. Well, he grumbled about him not having any money to give me, and I told him, oh no, it's fine, that all I just needed was to talk to him for a few moments, and as soon as he sat on the couch, I looked him straight in the eye and began by telling him that the document that Grandpa had read of his will was fake, and was forged just like Sean had forged the original document to replace it with a phony one. The moment I said that, I noticed that Sean started sweating. He was in shock, and yes, I felt that joy that I could get back at him. All my life, I've allowed him to bully me and collect my things without returning them. I was happy that I was finally able to stand up for myself and get the justice that I deserved. I started laughing when I saw how shocked he was. I told him that in the real document, Sean would receive nothing of Grandpa's inheritance because Grandpa had promised to give it to me after he heard everything that Sean did. I told him that everything that was to go to Sean would now come to me. He couldn't believe what I was saying and scoffed again and said, "Is this some kind of game that you're playing? Because I'm not enjoying it." I told him that he was the one playing games with me, and now it's my turn. But what I was doing was not a game. I told him that giving him the inheritance was a test for him so that I could get to know whether he was really going to pay me back. But since he refused even after he had the money now, in that sense he really failed the test I set up for him with the help of Grandpa. Well, at this point he gets angry and starts throwing every slur in my direction, but I smirked and got up into the room and left Sean there to try to sort out his own life. But he stood up and attempted to attack me, so I ran backwards from him. And that's when Grandpa came in with the cops, who came to arrest Sean, and Grandpa said he had known that the moment I revealed all that happened to Sean, he might want to attack me. And so Grandpa had taken some precautions and come ready. I decided not to press charges, but Sean got kicked out of the family empty-handed.
So I thought OP was about to get royally messed up, but it turns out, oh no, Sean is not as smart as he thought he was. And OP was one step ahead. She checked the document, she made sure that it was legitimate, and at the end of the day, she got a little bit of karma for that jerk Sean. I want to know your thoughts on this story. Let's say this. If you were in OP's position and you found out everything about your brother, you give him the $50,000, he tries to not give it back, makes a fake document, tries to replace the original document. I mean, how do you go about handling all this? Guys, just let me know in the comment section down below. My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you guys, because I drop a story every single day, and the only way you're going to see these stories is if you click subscribe. Alright guys, I'll catch you tomorrow, and of course, just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.